what all are your gifts, your talents, your passions, your abilities that God has given you that he allowed you to use within that particular industry or job, whatever it is for that time frame. And now, either through your own choosing or by force or whatever it is, you're no longer doing that. Then it's not an end of you, it's an end of that chapter. Welcome to the Pastor's Lounge. I'm Sherry, your unapologetically Christian therapist. Here we talk about all things mental health and wellness from a biblical perspective. My first ever client in group practice where I worked before was a retired cop. And I remember being a little bit confused. My first client was all excited and terribly nervous at the same time. I was like, oh no, like, what am I going to tell this guy? When I, looked through his paperwork and saw what he was coming in for, and I'm like, oh boy. And we just got into talking, and I'm like, what's the issue here? He's like, I just retired. And I said, okay, like, cool. And the issue was he did not know who he was anymore. He didn't know what to do. He's like, I just feel so listless. I'm so bored. I'm confused. I'm just home all the time. And it was one of the most rewarding experiences to support him in figuring out that as much as he'd given obviously tons of time to his career and to the force, and he'd done such great work, that his identity wasn't obliterated, right? His purpose didn't die with his retirement, that he still had purpose and still had things to look forward to. And we just had these great series of conversations around rediscovering what all he loved and what he was interested in and where he wanted to go with his life now. Because so much, he was getting so stuck on the fact that, well, if I'm not doing this, well, now what? Like, what could I possibly be doing myself anymore? I was like, I feel like you had a life before that. There could be other things that you're interested in, and maybe you're just, just need to look at it a little bit differently in ways to repurpose your time. And maybe also you can do nothing. I mean, you serve your community for a really long time, and it was not the easiest job. So it's okay to do a little bit of nothing also, right? So just taking all of this apart, giving him a safe place to reflect on his career and consider what he really loved. I'm like, what brings you joy? What would you do for fun now? And little by little, we just kept having this series of conversations. What he discovered was that he loved baseball. He loved sports in general. And he's like, I was like, what were you doing in between? He's like, well, I coach my kids, baseball team. I was like, why don't you give that some more time and attention? And for whatever reason, that hadn't occurred to him. And he just sat and thought, and he's like, oh, yeah, like I could flesh out a little more. I could totally do more there and give more time there. And I was like, yeah, plus, it's bonding with your kids. It seems like a win-win. We had maybe a couple more conversations, never saw the man again. That was it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pat myself on the back like every single conversation I'm having with somebody who's in that life phase goes that quickly and smoothly and successfully. I realize there's a lot of different elements of bringing people to the place of either being unemployed, underemployed, retired, not working, changing careers, whatever it is, or being laid off. There's so many things that can impact people's sense of purpose. And so our conversation today is really not, yes, specifically about people who are retired and making this transition into what feels like this big, wild unknown of life without this formality of working. But wherever this finds you in your vocational journey, where you just feel like you've hit an impasse, there's a major change. It's like, well, who am I if I'm not blank? And I just want to encourage you today that, number one, it is an absolute blessing, which I can say with sincerity and my own experience literally right now, that it is a blessing and a divine gift to be doing what you absolutely love, such that it doesn't feel like work. And I know people say that and think it's cliche. And I thought it was cliche at certain life moments, but it's totally not. I love what I do. I do to a large degree feel like it's an inextricable part of my person, of who I am as a human. I think, operate, move, and act and speak like a clinician. I'm a therapist through and through. That's how I see the world. That's how I navigate situations, is from that mindset. But at the end of the day, I can say with sincerity That if God were to say, okay, Sherry, like you've done your, the 16, 17 years, whatever it is, we're done. Like, pack it up. We're finished here. Would I feel a little strange? Sure, because this is the only work I've ever done, but I can certainly say it would not feel like my whole identity was gone. Easy for me to say right now because God has not asked me that. So I recognize this and be like, yeah, Sherry, like that's not on the horizon for you right now. So you don't get it. And you'd be right. But my guess is that, sure, I feel like a fish out of water for a minute, but there are other things I love to do. I have other passions, and I would be just as open, like, all right, Lord, like what's next, right? I feel like I'd still have a sense of adventure, still have a sense of purpose and value, because our purpose and our identity is not meant to be exclusively so tied to our work that you feel like if you're no longer working in the way that you're used to, that now you cease to exist and you cease to matter. And like, well, what is my purpose now? Well, it's a conversation with your creator. What all are your gifts, your talents, your passions, your abilities that God has given you, that he allowed you to use within that particular industry or job or whatever it is for that time frame. And now, either through your own choosing or by force or whatever it is, you are no longer doing that. Then it's not an end of you. It's an end of that chapter, right? So think about a bird, right? If you take a bird from being in one particular location and then you just, bring it to another spot, another country, another state or whatever it is, they don't lose the capacity to fly. Like their flying abilities is permanent, right? It doesn't shift or disappear or they don't become a different animal altogether and lose that ability because you switch their location, you switch their age, you switch their context, right? They're still a bird. They can still fly. What you need to sit with the Lord about is, okay, I'm still who I am. I'm still everything you've made me to be. You've changed my context. You've changed the place in which you're using me. You've changed the way in which, my day is filled. How would you like to use me now, Lord? That's the way we should look at it. Again, easier said than done. I understand. But the way we're going to kind of caption this is retirement or refinement. Well, shout out to my husband. He gave me that. It's a good one. Refinement. You're getting an opportunity to be redefined a little bit, to approach your life differently. I might add, how many of you are reaching that retirement position? Everybody's like, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? I don't think that's the right question. I don't really love that question because you're presuming upon the person that they're only what they do. Like their value is tied to their busyness and their actions, which yes, there is some merit to, like how are we staying fruitful and productive? But what if the expectation, the goal, the true healthy thing is for you to do absolutely nothing? You've put in 25, 30 plus years in whatever industry it is, or, kind of variety of things. You've hit the age, the time, the years, whatever it is, where you're like, time to wrap up, or you're told it's time to wrap up. You can't just rest. You're not allowed to answer that question with, if someone's obnoxious enough to ask, which of course they're going to, do, is, you know what? I don't know yet. Or actually, I'm just going to be still. I'm going to sleep in a little bit after getting up at 5 a.m. for the last 30 years. I think I'm going to push it to 7 and find out what that feels like, right? I'm going to travel a little bit more. I'm going to read. I'm going to actually read an entire book. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to spend more time with my kids. I'm going to see family that I haven't seen in a long time. I'm going to take up a hobby. I'm going to resume a hobby that has really collected a lot of dust in these years and find out what else I love. I'm going to take a cooking class and just try my hand at that. Or again, I'm just going to be still. I'm going to be still and let the Lord speak to me and spend more time in the Word. I've been refreshed and so overjoyed at working with some clients that have retired, and they're coming and chatting with me about things that they're doing in their lives now. And they're like, Shay, I'm just in my Word, and I'm reading and I'm journaling and talking to the Lord and going for walks, exercising, and taking myself to breakfast, and it's so refreshing. And I am so overjoyed for them that they've come to a place where that's not something they're trying to fix, right? So don't make it all about what you have to now pick up and start doing. Don't be so quick to find something else that you must perfect or work on. It's okay to be still for a little bit. And then just go back to the drawing board. Close your eyes and remember when I was 16 or 17 or 21, what did I love to do? What gave me so much joy? Now, if sincerely it's what you were doing for a living and that's been your whole course the whole time, that's awesome. But then the imagination time can become about, okay, well, now what would I like to try or learn a new language, go to a different place, be curious with yourself again, because for so long you've been pretty scripted. You knew exactly what you're going to do Monday through Friday, and you had your 9 to 5, you knew exactly what was going on. Every day was exactly the same. Maybe do nothing the same. Try something. Well, I might not be good at that. So what? Try and fail and then move on to something else, to learn an instrument. Let yourself just explore and discover, but don't feel like your life has ended. Do you know how devastating and awful it is to hear? And perhaps you may know someone who lost a job or ended a career and they just stopped living. Some literally chaos, complete chaos and disillusionment, and just, I don't know who I am anymore, and just could not even face their families and couldn't take the blow to their identity, their ego, their sense of worth or value, because they were no longer working at a certain place. And to me, it just makes no sense. Because what you'd essentially be communicating to your creator is, I am my job, and without it, who am I? Whatever you were before, right? That was just the job, which again, it's a blessing when the job and the calling, your sense of purpose and fulfillment are all so beautifully intertwined. That's amazing. But again, don't make your work your identity. Just let it be your work, right? Do it well. Do it as unto the Lord. Absolutely. But make sure you're feeding other aspects of yourself. So that being said, that gives me an opportunity to encourage you, if you're watching this, and which is likely there are plenty of people watching who are not retired or maybe not anywhere close. Let's get ahead of that. Get ahead of that, of what some will experience as completely terrifying and jarring, to the point where they're sitting in therapy like, I don't know who I am anymore. Let's get ahead of that. That doesn't have to be the case. We don't have to inevitably kind of wait for that to be our experience. Live diversely now. Be intentional that your job is not everything that you are now. Make sure that when you clock out, you close that email, you send that last text, you're done, and you transition to the rest of who you are. That way, if you suddenly lose that job, when it's time to retire, if you're demoted, something happens, the unexpected and the awful takes place with your work situation. Yes, it's disappointing. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's temporarily scary. You need to figure out your finance. I get it. That matters. That's real. But your sense of personal worth and value, who you are as a human, is not brought into question. You're not saying like, how do I face my family? How do I get up in the morning? Same way you always would, because you as an individual still matter. So feed other aspects of you really intentionally. So let me put myself out there. So for me, yes, I love counseling. I love coaching. I love encouraging people. I love doing this now. Who knew, right? Like, this is all part of the picture for me. But you know what I also love? I love listening to really good music. I love watching movies with my husband. I love working out, exercising. I love going for long walks with my mom, with my daughters. I love, just being in nature. I love collecting earrings and trying new coffee and new foods. I enjoy so many other things. I enjoy mentoring people for fun. Not charging anything, just being out, going for coffee with someone and walking away knowing that I've invested in someone, I've exhorted someone, and they're better for having just been in that conversation. That's so refreshing. So once God calls me to hang this up, once becomes whatever it's meant to become, and I'm 80 or something, and God's like, all right, it's time to wrap it up, or whatever it is, I'm not worried, because I've built my life on so much more than just this. And that's healthy. That's wise. That's how when we come to an end of an era, it's not an end of you. All right? So let's get ahead of that anxiety and that depression. And if you're there are solutions. Be curious with yourself. Don't give up. Don't get frustrated. Don't feel like your life is over. It's just beginning again. See it as an opportunity to be refined, to be refueled, to be redefined, and let God continue to use you, love on you, refresh you in this new chapter. So it's not something to dread. It's a season to enjoy. I pray this encouraged you, motivated you, helps you feel that your life is just beginning. It's not ending if you're at this life stage. And if so, please like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, I pray you prosper and you are in great health, even and especially as your soul prospers.